Holy crap, it's Jackie Southcutt from hit game At the Ends of Eras. Look, I'm really trying my best here.
It's time for a normal devlog on this channel. Breathe in, breathe out. My last video makes development seem more chaotic than it really is, but that was describing the first few weeks of development, figuring out a direction for the game. Despite that direction being odd, I've stuck to it ever since. I don't make devlogs very often because most of the time I'm just making more of the stuff I described last time. You can read the chapter titles on the stream VODs to see a list of things I've done. I don't need to spend weeks making a video about it. They need a little more punch, you know? Anyway, the day after my last devlog, I didn't eat anything and then went on a 2-mile run, and in the resulting fugue state I realized I had to delete every level in the game. And then I did. It sounds drastic, but the game is an open world, and I'm using level specifically for the linear platforming gauntlets scattered throughout it. And most of the towns. And also the caves. It was about 75% of the game's content. Not 100%. I did this because the levels were bad. Playtesters were miserable anytime the difficulty ramped up, I constantly found new bugs, and when I was recording gameplay for the devlog, I got so frustrated that I no-clipped past a few sections. I, the developer, couldn't stand playing my own shitty levels. And these weren't first versions. I'd been making and remaking most of these areas since the very beginning of development, and they still weren't fun after 2 years. I knew that they weren't good enough to be in the final game, but what else do I do? The YouTube description says the game is a 3D platformer. I gotta keep them around until I make something better. But lying in bed, half delirious, I knew it was time to cut my losses. As I've said multiple times in devlogs and streams, At the Ends of Eras is a sort of story-based adventure game first and foremost. When I explain the game to other people, I don't open with the role jumping. I pitch them the story of gathering knowledge about the protagonist's mom for the memory scanning AI, or I explain the dialogue mechanics, which let you use any item or journal note to unlock hidden branches of dialogue. If those are the things that excite me, and I think excite others, why have I spent the majority of my time on the platforming, building and rebuilding levels, testing and fixing movement code, over and over again, despite knowing full well it wasn't my top priority? The answer is obvious. It was fear. I don't know how to make my game. I don't know how to tell its story well. I don't know what message I want to give people. I don't know how learning something about Jackie's mom and then going to a place and seeing that same information again is supposed to be fun. I procrastinated on these questions by working on things I told myself were supposed to be in the game, such as the platforming. But now that fear's been overridden by an entirely new emotion. Being sick of working on this fucking thing. If I hadn't made streaming a regular thing, I would have dropped this game after like 2 months. After 2 years, I'm well past the point of being scared of it. So instead of tiptoeing around these hard problems, I've started tackling them directly because fucking get it done. I'm tired of it. Wrap it up, please. I have other things to do. My Algol 60 compiler still doesn't support call by name, and you know what they say? It's not Algol 60 till it supports call by name. And I got other stuff. I want to make a 4chan clone.
Do not post child pornography on my 4chan clone. I am well aware that I appeal to the, quote, gamer demographic. And I know you're not using Tor to buy drugs, because the only green you got is the Toho Project plush doll toy stuffed doll Yomo Kumpaku 20cm Fumo plushie Xmas gift. I don't even need to make the site to know. So just as a reminder, I know your IP address, and I am tracking your location at all times. So think before you post.
Thank you, Bernie. Anyway, I mentioned last time that I was targeting 2025 to have the main story drafted, but I've shortened that deadline to September. I have 4 of the 8 major quests playable now, 3 of which were completed after the big deletion spree. Well, completed and playable are being generous, but the goal is to see the broader structure of the game come together and have a skeleton I can build on and easily fix. Like, make this room not just a white box is obvious. The question is whether the room should exist at all, and how it will tie back into everything else, which I might not figure out until everything else exists. Despite that, I can imagine the stuff I'm making being in the final game, just with art, gameplay, music, other things. It's an encouraging sight. I'd say the game is more on track than it's ever been. My hopes of getting it done by March 2025, so 3 years of development, are still as ridiculous as when I first said them, but now I can picture a really bad version of the game being done by then. And if you want to see that happen, you can support development by buying my to-do list app, NP To Do. It's the thing I use on streams. I finally released it like I said in that one video. You get the Windows and Linux builds and the source code under GPL so you can modify it, distribute it, and completely undercut my business. It's built using Lazarus, so it'll run on anything Lazarus supports as long as you can build it. And if just 100,000 people buy it, I'll be able to retire to a nice cottage and never see any of you again. But why buy when you can rent? I launched my Patreon and you can join it now. For $3 a month, you'll get access to NP To Do and any other software I think would fit there. You'll be able to submit questions for a new Q&A segment I'll do on stream. To be clear, like 10 to 15 minutes per question. I'm not doing tech support for $3. And I'll probably do one of those fun simulations I've seen YouTubers doing with their patrons. If just 700,000 people join today, I'll be able to pay the mortgage on a private island off the coast of Thailand. I also stream on Twitch, so watching or subscribing would support development. Apparently, because I'm an affiliate, there's an ad when you first click on my stream, so please install an ad blocker before watching. And I have a Discord server where I do basically nothing except announce streams. I think I'm too old for Discord, I don't know. Like, what do people talk about on there? I don't want to talk to you about anything. I know what they talk about on Discord. Alright, Bernie. Eventually the levels will come back. Maybe. If I feel like it. I think I understand my mistakes now. I was trying to make levels like it was Celeste, self-contained challenges that test some particular movement skills or level mechanic. There were two problems with this. One, I don't have experience designing levels like this. I don't have a good sense for what works well with my movement or how complex to make puzzles, and I haven't found a fast way to iterate on level designs. If I'd spent more time making platformers in the past, I'd be in a better place now, but it's too late for that. 2. Jackie's moveset doesn't have clear limitations. The climbing is very flexible, and there's upgrades you can get in any order that significantly increase your movement abilities. How do I make the player engage with the level's mechanics if they can just climb around it? With these combined, I wound up with levels that were simultaneously boring and too hard, with mechanics that were unintuitive and annoyingly precise, but could be cheesed with some hokey shit using the bubble shot. Instead, I want to embrace the flexibility of the movement and focus on making places that are just fun to climb on and explore, without the tight challenges I was trying to make beforehand. I'd focus more on making places that look cool and fit the story, and then add more verticality and secrets to make them more platformery. There's a place for more difficult platforming within that, but it'd be mostly optional. I could also blend in more of those adventure game style puzzles the rest of the game is using, rather than having a hard barrier between the two sides of the game. You know, get a key and then use it somewhere type stuff. I also kept most of the races because they're pretty good. They're straightforward obstacle courses that ask the player to experiment with different routes and movement to get the best time. I'd like to have more of those simply because I like making them. I can see a lot of different ways to try again now that I've wiped the slate clean, and I want to take another shot at it when the time comes. But that time will be much later. It won't be in 2024, and maybe not even 2025, depending on how perfectionist I want to get with the story stuff. In the end, the game would be best with both, but this was the right choice. I was tempted to make this devlog right after deleting the levels, but I wanted to wait until I'd made some progress, and now I've made even more progress than I expected. I was planning for the quests to still take 2 months or so each, but they've been done in, a month or 3 weeks each. I hope I can keep exceeding my expectations. These last 4 quests are the ones I'm most uncertain about because they include the ending. I implemented the end more than a year ago, but it was just the most basic sketch to make the game technically completable. That outline is still correct, but this is where everything has to come together so the player can walk away feeling like they played a cool video game that has a good ending. Speaking of which, how do I end this video?